Welcome back to another Facebook Live reading of the original Adventures of Hank the Cowdog by John Erickson. Tonight we are doing chapter 3, An Enormous Monster. I debated a long time about what to do next. Should I hide out and play it safe or go down to the chicken house and get blamed for something that it really wasn't my fault? Curiosity got the best of me, and I trotted down to see what was going on. Drover was already there when I arrived, wagging his stubbed tail and trying to win a few points with his loyal dog attitude. I walked right up to him and said out of the corner of my mouth, "Thanks for all the help this morning. I really appreciate it." I think he missed the whole point of irony because he said, and I mean with a straight face, he said, "That's okay, Hanky. It wasn't nothing." Dang right it wasn't nothing. Loper was kneeling over the hen, studying the signs. Sally Mae was over there, stood nearby looking mighty unhappy about the dead chicken. Loper pushed his hat to the side and stood up. His eyes went forth, glancing back around, and he looked straight at me and Drover. Only then I turned around and Drover had disappeared. It was just me standing in the spotlight. "Hank, you hadn't been barking all night long, this could have been prevented. Why don't you keep up with things around here?" I hung my head low and had tucked it between my tails. "Do you realize how much money it costs me to feed you dogs around here? Seems that every time I turn around, I'm having to buy another sack of 50-pound dog food. That stuff's expensive." Maybe this isn't the time or place to argue the point, but just for the record, let me say that co-op dog food is the cheapest you can buy. I don't know how they make the stuff, but they make it out of hulls, straw, sawdust, anything a pig won't eat. And then they throw in a little grease to give it a so-called flavor. Tastes like soap, and about half the time it gives me an upset stomach. The point is, it really wasn't eating the ranch into bankruptcy. Thought I ought to throw that in just to give a more balanced view of things. Loper went on. "We can't afford to keep you dogs around here, and if you're going to let that sort of thing go on, everybody's got to keep its up on the ranch. I don't want this to happen again." What did he suppose I wanted? Sometimes I don't understand. Oh well, he picked up the dead chicken by the feet and carried it to the trash barrel. I got to admit, I was watched that with some interest, seeing since it occurred to me that, well, there wasn't much any of us could do for the dead chicken. The more I thought about chicken dinner, the more my mouth watered. Couldn't get it off my mind. Well, I like chicken about as much as I like any food. Has a nice clean taste to it, except for the feathers. They kind of get scratchy as they go down. Sure was hungry for some chicken, but I decided against it. Wouldn't look good if I was caught eating the victim of the murder. After all the trouble I'd gotten in that day. I tried to concentrate on the scene of the crime. I studied it again, went over all the clues, the ground, sniffed it out, nothing. No clues, no tracks, no scent. Could have been a coyote, could have been a raccoon, a skunk, a badger, or even a fox. But there was one thing I was sure of. It wouldn't happen again. Not while I was in charge of ranch security. Not as long as I could stand up and fight for the ranch. I saw Drover peek his head out of the machine shed. "Get some sleep, son," I told him. "Tonight we're going to throw up double guard, and we could get ourselves into some combat." Well, we slept till dark. When the moon came up, we went out on patrol, made several laps around the headquarters. Everything was quiet. Off in the distance we heard some coyotes, but they weren't anywhere close. Must have been about midnight when Drover said his feet hurt. He wanted to rest a while. I left him in front of the chicken house and told him to sound the alarm if anything unusual was going to happen, or if he saw anything strange. I went on down and checked things out at the corral, made the circle around the place, ended up back at the chicken house about a half hour later. Thought I'd drop in unannounced on Drover to make sure he is taking care of business. As I sneaked up, I could see him out of the moonlight. His ears were perked up. He'd take about 2 steps and pounce on something. Then he'd take a couple more steps and pounce again. He wasn't paying a lick of attention to the chicken house. A guy could have backed a truck up there, loaded up all the chickens, been gone before Drover ever even got the news. I walked up behind him. "What are you doing?" He screeched and headed for the machine shed. I called him back. He came out looking around with his big eyes. "Is that you, Hank?" "Uh-huh. What are you doing?" "Me? Oh, nothing." It was then I saw the toad jump. Playing with a toad frog? On guard duty? When we got a murderer running around loose? He hung his head low. He went to wagging that stub tail of his. "I got bored, Hank." "Sit down, son. Me and you need to have a serious talk." He sat down. I marched back and forth in front of him. "Drover, I'm really upset, disappointed in you. When you came to the ranch, you said you wanted to be a cowdog. I had misgivings at the time. I mean, you didn't look like a cowdog, but I took you on anyway and tried to teach you the business. Can you imagine how it breaks my heart to come up here and find you playing with a dadgum toad frog?" His head began to lower and lower, and he started to sniffle. "If you had gone into any other line of work, playing with a frog would be all right. But a cowdog is something special. You might say we're the elite. You have to be stronger, braver, tougher than any other breed of dog in the world. It's a special calling. Drover, it ain't for the common run of mutts." He started crying. "Drover, there's only one thing that keeps you from being a good cowdog." "What is it, Hank?" "You're worthless." "Oh, no! Don't say it! It hurts too much!" But it's true. I've tried to be patient. I've tried to teach you. I've tried to be example. I know. But it hasn't worked. You're just as worthless today as the first time I saw you. Oh! You're just a chicken-hearted little mutt is what you are. I don't think you'll ever make cowdog. "Yes, I will, Hank. I just need time." "Nope. Duty's duty. I got no choice but to let you go." He broke down and sobbed. "Oh, Hank, I got no place to go. No friends, no family, nobody wants a chicken-hearted mutt. Give me 3 more chances." Can't do it. 2 more. Nope. 1 more. I paced back and forth. It was one of the most difficult decisions I'd ever made on the job, and I didn't want to rush into it. All right, 1 more chance. But 1 more dumb stunt and you're finished, and I mean it. All right. Now dry your eyes, shape up, pay attention to your business, and concentrate on being unworthless. Okay, Hank. He started jumping up and down, going in circles. Hey, you don't have anything to worry about. No more frogs for me. I'll guard that chicken house and give my life if it's necessary. That's the spirit. I'm going to make the rounds again. If you see anything suspicious, give a holler. I started off on my rounds and left him sitting in front of the chicken house door. I was down at the feed room checking for raccoons when I heard him sound the alarm. I turned on my incredible speed and went tearing up the hill. Now, I have several speeds. Don't you see? Slow, normal, and incredible. I saved the last one for special emergencies. When I turn on the incredible speed, I appear as a streak of color moving across the ground. Anything that gets in my way is knocked aside, often destroyed. And I'm not talking about little stuff neither. I mean trees, posts, big rocks, you name it. As I was streaking up the hill, I met Drover. Hank, I seen him. He's up there. Oh my gosh. I had to slow down. Give me a description. Big Hank, and I mean big, huge, enormous, black and white, gigantic tail that whishes through the air, long pointed tongue that flicks at you, and horns growing up out of his head. Good grief, I whispered. What is it? It's a monster, Hank! A genuine monster! I stopped to think it over. I'd never tangled with a monster before. You think I can whip him? I don't know, Hank, but if anybody can, it's you. You're right. Okay, here's the plan. I'll go in the first wave. You make, and I'll make first contact. We'll hold him in reserve, all right? You stay back. I'll hold you in reserve. If I holler for help, you come running. Get in there with them teeth of yours and bite something. Got it? I got it. I took a deep breath. And Drover, if I don't come back from this one, you'll have to go it alone. Take care of the ranch and be brave. It was a kind of touching moment, me and Drover standing there in the moonlight just before the big battle. I said goodbye and loped over the hill. I stopped and peered into the gloom. At first I couldn't see anything, but then my eyes fell on a huge, shadowy thing standing right in front of the kitchen chicken house door. Drover hadn't exaggerated. It was a horned monster, all right, and he was fixing to bust down the door and take the rest of the chickens. I didn't have a moment to waste. It was now or never. Him or me, glory or death. I bared my fangs and attacked. First contact was made in a matter of seconds after I launched the attack. The monster must have heard me coming, 'cause he kicked the tar out of me and sent me rolling down the hill. The monster must have heard me coming, all right. I leaped up and I charged again, but this time I made it through, sank my teeth into him, gave him a ferocious bite. He slung me around, but I hung on. He was big, all right, big as the house. I figured he stood, 14 14-foot high at the shoulders. He had bloody red eyes, 3 of them, and a forked tongue and a tail with deadly stingers on the end of it. Also horns that glowed in the dark. And tusks. Did I mention that? Big, long tusks growing out of the side of his mouth. They kind of just rip a dog to shreds. Green slobber dripped out of his mouth, and his eyes were so red. It was a fight to the death. "Come on, Drover, attack! I sent up a howl to alert the house. I would need all the help I could get. I'll give Drover credit. He came tearing out of the weeds, yapping at the top of his lungs, and got within 3 feet of the monster before he veered off and headed to the machine shed. The lights came on at the house. The door slammed open. I heard Loper running toward me. I hoped he'd had his gun. I was getting beat up and tired. I wasn't sure I could keep up with fight much longer. The gun exploded and lit up the night. The monster ran, and I started after him, ready to give him a coup de grace, so to say, but Loper called me back. I figured he didn't want to risk losing the head of ranch security, which seemed pretty sensible to me. So I went back to him, limping on all 4 legs, because they all hurt at once, and so did everything else. Wagging my tail, I went up to him ready for my reward. I didn't get no reward. To make a long story short, Drover had sent me into battle against the milk cow, and I got cursed for it. I thought very seriously about terminating Drover. His life, not his job. But I couldn't find him in the machine shed. So I dragged my battered carcass down to the gas tanks and curled up on my gunny snack. I could have sworn that was a monster. Thanks for joining tonight. Tomorrow night, I know it's Sunday, but tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, Chapter 4, The Boxer. Hope you can join us. Bye now.